All right, YouTube. How y'all doing? My name is Jennifer, and y'all don't know me. You don't know any. I've never made a video like this before. I've never done any type of video before. And well, let's get down to brass tacks. The reason why I'm making this video is because the Lord Himself came to my house. The Lord Himself came to my house. Okay, and I've thought about it. First, I was, I went through the mental. I went crazy for a second. I was like, what do I do? Then I started thinking. At first, I thought I was gonna keep it to myself. Like, okay, this is something between me and the Lord, and keep it to myself. And then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? The Bible says, go out, spread the word, make disciples of men. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm right here doing right now. It's 12:30 at night. My voice is hoarse. I've been working all day long. Faded black t-shirt, hair a mess, in the sun. Just, helped the dog get rescued today. Found him a good family. Family left the dog out of the moved out of one of our rental homes, left it there abandoned, starving to death, and we got him a home. So a little bit about myself. That was my day, right? 12:30 at night. I told myself I wasn't going to go to bed until I make this video. So here I am. Bear with me, please. All right, so a little bit of background. I grew up in a working class family. My daddy worked his butt off. My mom's a stay-at-home mom. I was very blessed. They're still together to this day. It was little. My family, we'd all go to church. We wasn't like adamant church people. We didn't go every single Sunday. We'd go one Sunday and next Sunday if we had something going on, whatever, family event, whatever it may be, we wouldn't go, So, yeah, we go to church here and there. My family, we always, bowed our head and prayed at meals, always, let me just say this. I always knew there was a God. I've never in my life denied the existence of God. I've never in my life denied the existence of Jesus. I grew up knowing there's a God, knowing who Jesus was, but I wasn't an adamant, crazy church person or anything like that. Okay. So let me just start off. So that's a little bit of background. Start off, I guess, how everything took place. About 2 months ago, I've never listened to Christian music. I can't even recall one time in my life, YouTube, looking up music and ever looked up, willingly looking up Christian music. Never done it. I listen to everything. Country, rap, rock, 50s, 80s, whatever, 70s, whatever it may be. But there's never Christian music. It might be some rock and roll. Not really much jazz, I would say that. But, excuse me, country. Excuse me, I'm drinking a lot of water. But yeah, country, whatever. So I say about 2 months ago, I was laying in my bed, just doing what we always do, what people do, scrolling on Facebook, when I come home at night, laying in my bed, getting ready to go to bed, and I came across this Christian song, and I really liked it. I even went so far as going to YouTube and then looking up the song. Because, Facebook on a reel, when you come across, scrolling on reels, it's like a clip of it, right? So I really liked it. And I was like, let me check this out. I looked it up on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is my song, never really done that before. I've never looked up any Christian music. Anyways, I was like, this is my song. All right. So, and you know how, whatever you look it up on YouTube, the very next thing it's going to show you is going to be related to whatever you just watch, right? Algorithm. All right, so the next song was a Christian song, and I was like, man, what's going on? This is some good music, and like I said, growing up, we've never listened to that. I'm 36 years old, never listened to it. We go to church and sing hymns when you leave church, it's back to your life, and let me just say this, okay, so I own multiple rental properties, I work for an investor, all that's an hour north of me. And then my bartending job is about 45 minutes south of me, depending on traffic. That's closer to Baton Rouge. So depending on traffic, it's, the opposite way. So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's one way. So I spend a lot of time in my car, right? So the next day I wake up, get prepared for work, and I get in my car, I gotta hook up the USB. And I was like, find that song I was listening to last night, And I did. So that whole day I spent listening to country music, Christian music, because like I said, the algorithm, whatever. And especially whenever I'm messing around with like the rental properties or working for the investor from one house to the next, I'm just like pretty much collecting rent or seeing what they got going on. If they got a complaint, if they called me, whatever it may be. So I'm spending most of the day when I do that on the road. Okay. So the whole day I'm just listening to Christian music. And I kid you not, from that day on, it's been about 2.5 months. I don't even listen to nothing else, like nothing else. But I never planned for this to happen. It just happened that way. You know, now I know that was God's plan in action. You know, like he was working on that. He was finding a little way to, I wouldn't say lure me, but lure me. Because like I said, I was always there mentally. Like I always knew there was a God. And I will tell you the truth. I'm obsessed, not obsessed, but like I'm so fascinated. I'm always watching like documentaries on like the science behind God. You know, Stephen Myers, I love him. Just multiple people. I love watching documentaries, how like science is now, it's catching, science, I would say science is catching up with the Bible, but no, that's actually right. Because the Bible's not catching up with science. So science is catching up with the Bible. Everything pretty much the Bible, it says in the Bible, archaeology can't even talk. I'm sorry, excuse me. What a day. Archaeological digs, you know, and not even just that, just so many different things, you know, it's just starting to prove. Whatever. All right. So, and I've watched stuff like that for like years, if not years plural, years singular for sure. But yeah, let's get back to the Christian music. So 2 months straight, the way it happened, you know, like if something else will come on the radio or something else pops up on my phone, I'm like, nope, I'm not even trying to hear that, you know, I'll put back on the Christian music. So about a month ago, I just decided, I was like, you know what, I'm listening to Christian music. I need to go to church. So a couple of miles right up the road from my house, I decided I was going to go to this church. I walked in the door, and I still remember what the sermon was on. It was on the suddenly. You get what I'm saying? Like suddenly when something happens, you pray. It might take years for it. Then all of a sudden, God steps in like that. The suddenly, everything you want, or I'm not even going to use the word want, but because at the end of the day, he knows what we need. He knows what's right for us. He knows what needs to be in motion, what needs to happen for his plan to transpire, his will. Okay, so like I said, that sermon was on the suddenly. This is crazy. This is light bulb moment going off as I'm speaking this, but all right, I go to church, and I even remember I was like, it was my first day, and I hadn't been to church in years. So I remember leaving out, and I was like, I really enjoyed myself. But what people do, we nitpick the smallest little things, right? So I remember the pastor making the comment. He said, we're a church of the New Testament. And I remember thinking instantly, like, I'm a believer of the Bible, not just the New Testament. Maybe I shouldn't come back here. What does he mean by that? Then I thought, reasonable thinking kicks in. Like, we're all human. Maybe he just slipped up in words. I'm sure he just didn't mean the church of the New Testament, Jennifer. He spoke of the Old Testament, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to come back next weekend. So the next weekend I go back. I want to say it was two weekends in, 2 Sundays in. And I don't remember what the second sermon is, to be true to be told. But whatever. I go to church the second weekend. I enjoyed it. I really did. I remember I was grateful that I went. I'll tell you that. Fast forward, sometime during that week, I decided to take a day off. I'm not hitting the road. I'm not doing nothing. I was off from my job in Baton Rouge, the bartending job. So, and let me tell you people, right now, you think the Lord don't care about whoever is listening to me. Don't ever in life think you're too small, you're not important, you don't matter. I bartend. You understand what I'm telling you? I serve people liquor, and the Lord came to my house. You matter. Think about that. And I've never, with everything that happened to me this last month for sure, I've never felt like conviction, like you quit your job. No. I've never heard him spoke out loud, and I pray for it all the time, please. But I've never heard him, I've seen him, and I mean seen, 5 feet away, seen the Lord. But he didn't speak any words to me. And I'm going to tell you in a minute, that broke my heart. I'm going to tell you. So, anyways, like I said, second weekend I go to church. Okay, whatever. Middle of the week, I decided, I'm off Baton Rouge. My job in Baton Rouge is the only job where, I absolutely have to go to, investor in my rent houses. I mean, as long as nothing's horribly wrong, I don't have to be there. I could handle everything on my computer, phone, whatever, right, in my house. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to stay in the house today. I'm going to take a day off and just whatever. Got up, made some coffee. Regular day. Got up, made some coffee. Didn't even get dressed. Stayed in basketball shorts and a t-shirt all day. All right? Drank my coffee, you know. So they go sit outside and play with my puppies. That back door right there. All right, that goes out to my backyard. And barefoot, basketball shorts on, old t-shirt. You know, I walk out in the yard. I'm sitting down. I'm playing. I got 3 dogs. I got American Bully, a weenie dog, and a lab that I found abandoned on the side of the road behind one of our rental properties. I decided I was going to take them home and fatten them up. Got his shots, neutered all that. Decided, you know, I was going to keep them. Actually, I tried to find them at home, and after I couldn't find them at home, then I decided I was going to keep them. But whatever. Oh, my God. So I'm sitting outside playing with my dogs, and all right, so if you're familiar with Louisiana, you know how hot the summer is. It's detrimental, baby. You walk out in 10 minutes, you feel like you cooked. You know, you can't breathe. It's pouring sweat. It's just, ooh, it's rough. So when I sat outside, it hit me. I felt the cool breeze, and I love the fall, y'all. I felt the cool breeze, and I'm looking at the leaves fall, and I'm like, what a gorgeous day. What an absolute beautiful day. You know, I literally bowed my head and just said a little quick prayer. And I'm going to tell you what the prayer was even. The prayer was, thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for your creation. Thank you for my family and for you placing me in my family. Because I always say, you know, my greatest blessing is that, I always say, my greatest blessing that the Lord's with me. And my second greatest is the family that he gave me. All right. Now, I've always said that. This before, you know, he came to my house. I didn't think I would ever see the Lord in my house. I mean, that just happened. All right. So anyways, but that is, I always just like, you know, I've always been a faithful person. So like I knew the Lord was with me. You know, your grandparents or whoever might tell you, you know, well, God's with you, baby. Yeah. But this is coming out so crazy. Whatever. All right. So I'm sitting in my backyard. I say this prayer, you know, and I always end, at least I try to, always end, you know, thank you, Lord, for never leaving me and always being with me. Now that's important. Okay. So saying the prayer, I pick my head up. Amen. When I pick my head up, my life is forever changing. I pick my head up. The best way I could describe it, it's like the old 90s movies where the Star of Bethlehem. It's like a cross and it's like a light shining behind it. But the cross is like, I don't know, it's the Star of Bethlehem. The wise man knew what it was. Okay, well, I'm Jennifer and I always considered myself pretty well biblically educated, but not like, you know, where you see something and it's like, that's in the Bible. No. When I saw this and I was like dumbfounded. I was like, what am I looking at? Then it hit me. So back to what I said. I picked my head up. I saw and this is bigger. This is middle of day. I say around 4:30, 5 o'clock, before the time change. You know, we're in November now, excuse me. So it says, you know, October, before time change, 5 o'clock. It was bright as day outside. No stars out. Sun still perfectly sitting in the sky. You know, it didn't get, you know, sunset wasn't until like 7:30 or something like that. But anyways, 7:15 sunset, sun down at like 7:30, 7:45. But whatever. All right. So anyways, you know, I see this. And listen, this is a cross. Like, this is, like I said, no store. This thing's huge. You know, I've never seen a store this big. Middle of day. You know, this is way too bright to even have any stores shining, first of all. But this thing was super bright. Okay, this was, there's no second guessing this. This thing is, I'm 36 years, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. First time in that backyard, the first time I ever saw something like this in my entire existence, okay? All right, super bright, a cross with light shining behind it. This is where it gets weird. It looked like it was maybe 500 feet away from me, but I knew it was like a mile. You know what I mean? Like, or miles, plural. Like, but it looked like it was right there. You know what I mean? Not like I could just reach out and touch it. Like I said, a good 500 feet. Like, it didn't seem that far out, you know, in the atmosphere. But I knew it was. Okay? And I remember just thinking, I was like, I first looked and I was like, what is this? It's the Lord. Like, it's the Lord. Then I immediately thought, I want to say I spoke it out loud. Like, you crazy. But this is the Lord. You know, like, I'm literally combating myself here. And I'm like, in a conversation. Like, I knew what it was, but am I crazy? Like, this can't be. Oh, God. So, anyways, it was. I felt like now that everything has happened. Okay, so I'm going to let that. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it, and let me just say this. I'm watching this cross, right? At first it kind of stood in one spot. And like once my eyes got like a good glance at it, or not even a glance, a look at it. Because this, all right, from the moment I looked at it to it descended behind a cloud, I'd say 45 seconds. Now let's think about that. How long is 45 seconds? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. 4, I mean, it's a, nice little period of time. It's not like you saw it in a peripheral vision or you see something across the field and you don't know what it is. This thing was so bright, right? Okay, so like I said, I saw it for a moment, stood still. When my eyes like locked on it, it started moving up, like just not an angle, just straight up. And this is where it got like kind of strange because it disappeared. Well, a cloud came in front of it and hit it. We're talking about something super bright, okay? The sun's on the opposite end of the sky. This thing's on one end of the sky, so it's lit up the other end of the sky. Super, super bright. There's no way in the world a cloud should have covered it. If anything, a cloud could have got behind it and it should have shone straight on through. Like this was super bright. And it wasn't that high up. It's not like, well, even like past our atmosphere. What's it called? I don't know. I'm not even gonna get into that, but it's not like it wasn't that far away from me. It wouldn't, anyways, so I sat there and I watched, I say a good solid 45 seconds. I'm not, a little shy of it or a little past it, give or take, whatever. And I came in my house and I was just like, what did I just see? All right. So I come in my house, like, what did I just see? And then the rest of the day, I kind of like thought about it, but I was like, this is, this is literally a cross, y'all. Like I kept trying to tell myself, like, this is the Lord, but at the same time, well, let me just say, I kept trying to tell myself I was crazy, but truthfully, I knew. When you see something like that and there's no other, explanation, this thing's way too big to be a plane. It's not like I seen the belly of a plane, no. This thing was sitting straight up, like I just knew. It's not a star. It's 5 o'clock, 5:30, 4:30. It's more than that neighborhood. Middle of day. Skies is way too bright for a star. Thing's way too big to even compare to a star in the middle of the day at that. No, my 36 years of existence, I've never seen nothing like this before. This was truly the first time, and it altered my life. Okay, let's fast forward. So that was midweek. So the next following Sunday, the next following Sunday, I go to church, y'all. And this is gonna sound so crazy because I'm gonna be the first one to tell you I never believed in like modern day prophets or anything like that. Never have. I feel like people lie, can't be trusted, whatever it have you. But I go to church, the same little church that I've been going to. It's like that about a month at this point, 3 weeks to a month or whatever it may be. Right? I go to this church, and the pastor calls up. It was a guy from Italy and a lady from Germany, that was visiting the church. The lady was like a prophet. And I'm sitting in the pew and I'm like, oh, okay, what's really going on? It was like I never really believed in that, which is weird because I believe that there's prophets in the Bible, but I believe that the Bible is God's word. So I don't know. I feel like nowadays people could lie, this and that. So long story short, I sat in this pew and I was like, okay. This woman told me, not me, but she's she's in the pulpit, and I'm literally in like the last row of the church. Cause I go to church, I live alone, so I go to church and I'm by myself, so I'm literally in the last row. And this lady, she goes up to the pulpit and she introduces herself. She says, "Look, I'm from Germany. I'm here. I'm originally from United States. I want to say she was from Texas, but she does like missionary work. So she just came back from Germany." And this German girl had came with her. I don't remember the whole story. I remember, that whole part while she was here. But I'll tell you some words that I do remember. She told me that she was a prophet. And, I keep saying me. She told the church, I want to say she was in the middle of talking about like the Germany story. And then she just made the comment. She said, well, I'm also a prophet. And that's when I thought, I was like, okay, let's see. You know? And she said, first and foremost, you know, you are a part of God's creation. He loves you. He'll never leave you. This lady was like in convulsions in this pulpit, you people. Like, her face was solid red. You know, she was, you know, I just want to tell you, like, she was out of breath. She wasn't like falling on the floor, flopping, and making a scene or anything like that. You could tell she was really having trouble breathing. All right. And she makes, you know, the statement. She was like, you are God's creation. You are made in his beautiful image. He'll never leave you. She ended with, he'll never leave you. And she said a couple other little things, but mainly when she started talking, cause like I said, I just saw this Star of Bethlehem's the only way I could describe it, or the Lord himself, you know, and my prayer and everything that she said. At that time, everything she said was word for word what my prayer was. So I sat there. I went from, oh, this is crap, period, right, to, I remember making a comment. I was like, I pray this lady ain't lying. The lady on the side of me just kind of looked at me like, how dare you say this? But this is how I felt, you know. And then, yeah, she said that. And she ended with, I don't know who that was for. The Lord spoke with me. And after she spoke through me, and after she said that, I was like, that's, like it, I kind of like, the pastor came up, she got down, the pastor came up and he was in the middle of preaching. I didn't even think about, can't even recall what he preached on, because I was too busy thinking about what she said. Because in that moment, you got to remember, it's only been a few days since, you know, when I saw this in my backyard, so everything was still fresh. And I was like, this was word for word. This was my exact prayer. All right, that's another thing. I'll come home from that. Like a day or two, you know, just walking about my house. I've been feeling like something's with me. Y'all do look bad today. Anyways, I've been feeling like, not in a creepy way, like when you go take a shower, you feel like somebody's in your house. No, just like, I feel like somebody's with me. You know how, like, I don't know, you know, you're sitting at a table and you feel like somebody's looking behind you, like somebody's staring at you, and you look behind you and it's a friend of yours in the store and they're waving. You know how you get that little feeling? Kind of like that, you know. I've never felt anything creepy. And I will tell you this. I've lived in my house for 12 years. I've never seen anything, felt anything, nothing. And like I said, you know, lately I do. I feel like somebody's with me. But like I said, that happened. I come home. I feel like somebody's with me. I go to bed one night and I remember looking like you know, I'd sleep with all the lights off, everything. You know, hold my eyes open, and it was almost like a hand, but now that I think about it, it's more like a wing, you know, like, but just every color of the rainbow. I remember looking, like, just for a glimpse like that, and I was like, whoo, I gotta go to sleep. I literally put the blanket over my head and had the best night's sleep ever. Now, 2 or 3 days after that, I go to work in Baton Rouge, bartend. I go to work in Baton Rouge, bartend. I come home 11:30, 12 o'clock. I'm not a person to come home and just go to sleep, you know, brush your teeth, eat something, go to that. I gotta unwind, especially after bartending, and it's kind of wild, and it's not like a bar. It's like a family bar and grill, you know, but it's dealing with people all night long, and then, you know, coming home. I need a little minute to unwind, so I usually come in, let my dogs out. That one don't stop barking. I'm sure y'all hear in the background. I got them with my door closed in my bedroom so I can make this video. Hopefully it ain't too loud, the barking, that is. But so whatever, I come home, I let the dogs out, fix me something to eat, and I go sit on my couch. When I sit on my couch, all right, so my living room is pretty much dark in the evening. At nighttime, there's no light in my living room. It's weird to say. I got one lamp by the front door, but in the living room, there's no light. I have a skylight that overlooks, you know, the daytime. Like the light comes in and lights up the whole living room. And I usually have a light on, like, in the kitchen, shine that way. But whatever, I didn't. So with that being said, it's kind of dark, right? So I made me some food. I sat on my couch. Clicked on the TV like any other American does. Okay, clicked on the TV, and then all of a sudden, to the left, this is where the Lord comes, y'all. I look to the left, about 6 feet, I'd say, from my couch where I was sitting in front of my fireplace. And like I said, my living room's kind of dark. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you. Bear with me. All right. So kitchen lights, normal. Well, I told you I usually have a light shining. Well, you can't really see because it's actually shining. But those things you can move and you could showing them to the living room or whatever. Walking into the living room, see how it's dark. That's the skylight I was telling you. All right, fireplace. This is my couch. Look, I'm showing y'all my house is dirty than working. That's the spot I was sitting in. That's the fireplace. That's 6 feet. 6 feet, I'd say. All right, so 6 feet. Like I said, it's dark. So sit down on the couch, click on the TV, look to the left. It's like a lamp's on. There's no lamp right there. There's a fireplace. There's not even a place to put a lamp. You know, it's so bright in front of my fireplace. So I look, I'm like, you know, whatever. Like something catches your attention. You see some light shining, you look up, see what it is. I looked up to see what it is, and it's the Lord. Period. And I will tell you this. At first, I didn't know it was the Lord because his face was, he didn't show his face. But it was the Lord. Listen, it was a being. Let me just say that, okay? At first, I thought it was an angel. I knew it was like a person, you know, because the body. And it was wearing solid white robes. And I mean the whitest white you've ever seen in your life. Whitest white. But it shined with the light within it. The light it wasn't like a glow. It was emitting light. Light was coming from within it, okay? And the robes are snow white robes. But it shined with every color in the rainbow. Every color, like the edge of the robes. And here's the thing, the robes was blowing in the wind. Now, the air conditioner wasn't on. It was just, I mean, your house with no air conditioner on, no fan on, it's calm. There's no air, you know, flowing. There's nothing. You know, everything's been off. I just came in from work. I said, like I said, like nothing's on. When I looked at the robes was moving in the wind. You know, and I'm like, I just sat there with my mouth open. You know, not freaked out at all. It came out loud. You know, like I said out loud, I'm not scared. I know you're here with me to make sure. And what I said, I know you're here with me to make sure that I'm okay. Thank you for never leaving me. Like I told you, always in my prayers, thank you for never leaving me. But I didn't get up, and this is what killed me, Brett. I'm actually going to tell you this. You know, I mean, I couldn't sleep one night. I was waking up another night crying. I didn't get up. I didn't run to him. And you think of seeing the look. Okay, let me back up and let me finish telling you what happened. All right, so I look over, and there's a being. I couldn't see the face. Okay, standing a couple of feet away from me, light coming from out of him. You know, there's no light shining down. It's light from within. Okay. White robes flowing in the wind. No wind. You know, snow white, but yet every single color. I cannot describe. I cannot think of the words to describe this, y'all. I've never seen anything like this before. I said what I said. Like I literally said out loud, you know, words that I spoke. And I ended with, I know you want me to know that you're with me. Thank you for never leaving me. And then, I mean, y'all, I watched them. I watched them stand in place for minutes. Multiple minutes. I didn't say a word. I just, with my mouth open, and just watched him. And he faded into existence. Now I'm going to say the part that kills me, okay? Because anytime I think of seeing Jesus, I would think of running to him, giving him a hug. It's the Lord. It's the Savior of the world, y'all. You understand that? The creator of the universe here in my house. And I didn't jump up, run. I didn't bow down. I didn't do anything. I sat on my couch. I didn't move. You know, at first, you know, like after he went away, and I was the most, while it happened, I was the most calmest person that you've ever seen in your life. You know, after everything had happened, you know, when it disappeared, like I said, it stayed with me for minutes. It disappeared. I got up like any other normal night, ate my food, and went to bed. All right. Next morning I woke up and I was like, slept the most peacefulest I ever slept in my life. All right. Next morning I woke up and I was like, what happened? Girl, was that an angel? Like, it didn't, like, while it happened, I knew it was the Lord. But it's like I guessed to myself, or I thought myself out of what really happened. It's like I was trying to make sense of things. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was like, was that an angel? Because I couldn't see his face. You know, still to this day, I mean, truthfully, I don't want 100% without a doubt, no. But I'll tell you this, I'm 99.99999 to infinity 9% sure that I know is the Lord. Okay. So like I said, next morning I woke up, I was just like going over everything step by step, putting everything into play. Now things started making sense. You know, started listening to Christian music. That didn't even hit me until after I thought about the week prior. Okay, the week prior. In the sky, I was like that star of Bethlehem. The only way I could describe it, okay, guys? That was the Lord. Like, hello. Now that I think about it, that was him announcing his visit. You know, like, I'm with you. I'm coming for you. I didn't realize it at the time. But now that everything has transpired and took place, like, that was the Lord letting me know that it's him. Because right after that, you know, he popped up in my house. So that's not an angel. That's not anything. And the only reason why I even guessed it was an angel is because of like the roads and the colors. I was, you know, I mean, never seen the Lord before. You know, you think if you see the Lord, it's Snow White. It had multiple colors, like every color on the spectrum shined on his robes. Now that I think about it, I don't know if it's the light shining through that created that. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend to know. But I'm trying so hard to get clarity, like, to think about it like within the timeline. Like, all right, if this took place. Because I guess what I'm trying to say is, when I told you the cross, how it ascended behind the clouds, I didn't, like, I mean, I'm sure I knew about it. I'm not even going to pretend like I didn't know, but it never hit me. That's actually in the Bible. When Jesus ascended, he, you know, and then he hid behind the clouds. It didn't even dawn on me until after all this had happened. Like, all this is biblical. So now, all right, so the next following, I've done called my whole family and everything, and I'm like, look, you know, this is before somebody says it's a spirit or whatever. No, baby. I saw the cross. That's undeniable, like, undeniably, that's the Lord's cross. Okay? He was I'm talking 5-6 feet here, you know? Again, I mean, I'm not squinting my eyes it's glowing or lit up 5 or 6 feet before me. This is without a doubt. The only thing that I will say is I couldn't see his face. But I could tell by his figure, by his, like, it's more than a demeanor, by his posture. Man, he was a man. You know, and like I said, I've taken the cross, so it's the Lord. You know, and I don't know, I'm super grateful. I don't know why or anything. I'm super, I've been trying to figure it out, y'all. Since this happened, I've read the whole book of Isaiah. I got baptized. Oh, and that's another thing. I didn't get baptized before. You know, it said, you know, you receive the Holy Spirit, and I don't know. I'm exhausted at this point. It's probably 1 o'clock in the morning. Oh, God. But, yeah, I ended up getting baptized after all this had happened. You know, I called my brother, and, you know, he's married. He's got 3 little girls, and I told all of them, I'm going to say 3 little girls. My oldest niece is 18, 17, and my baby niece is like 13. But I told first I just called him and told him, and then he was like, you know, you know what you saw. You know, I can't tell you what you saw. So I will say that he's very, very supportive. You know, he's very, very supportive. He didn't make me feel like he thought I was crazy, but I felt like he thought, like he was thinking, like, okay, this girl lost her mind. You know, but no, he didn't say that. But the next following Sunday was family day at church, right? No, the next following Sunday was me getting baptized. The next Sunday after that, I drug my whole family to church. I'm like, y'all coming? This ain't a joke. Get in the car. Y'all live an hour away from me. I don't care. Come. They came. They came after church because last Sunday was family day, where like the church, all the members or whatever, they had a cookout, you bring, a side dish or whatever. So they went for that, and we ended up leaving there and going to eat at a Mexican restaurant. And at the Mexican restaurant, my sister-in-law made a comment. She said, you need to talk to the pastor. If anybody, this is who you need to talk to, is the pastor. And I was like, I don't want to bother these people. It was before I decided to start talking to people. Like I told you, at first I was like, I'm going to keep this to myself. This is something that happened between me and the Lord. Okay? And she was like, no, you need to talk to the pastor. And I'm new at the church. I'm new, and I just got baptized there. If I show up in the doors telling them about this, they going to think I'm out of my mind. They're going to have the cops in my front yard ready to lock me away, But, whatever. I took her advice. I ended up pulling it back at the church. By this time, it's like 2 hours after, we had left. So I pull up at the church, and they're, taking down decorations and cleaning up the mess. And I just walked in. I was like, hey, pastor, remember me? You baptized me not this weekend, but last weekend. And he's like, Miss Boardlawn, Like, I shouldn't have said that on YouTube, but whatever. And I was like, yeah. He said, what can I do for you? Yes, I need to talk to you right now. He said, right now? I said, right now. And he was like, okay. And I said, is your wife available? I need to talk to her too. And he's just kind of looking at me like, what's this about? And I was like, you got the office? And he's like, yeah, come on, let's go. We go sit in the office, and I was just as stunned as can be. And I was just like, I seen the Lord, I seen him. And he's, what you mean you saw him? And I was like, I sat there and looked at the Lord, at Jesus. Like, I know it was Jesus, And, he talked to me, and he told me that, best thing for me to do is to read my Bible. So, I've done, let's see, that was last Sunday with me working 3 jobs. I went to work, and I still had enough time to read the whole book of Isaiah, which is, by the way, the most confusing book there is, the book of prophecies. And, now I'm on John. I've been nonstop. And I guess because when I think about it, like I said, when I saw the cross ascend in the heavens, and, in my backyard, that was in the Bible. So I guess maybe a big piece of me is, I want to know, I'm super grateful that he came. Super, super grateful. But I guess I want to know why. So I'm hoping to find my answers in the Bible, being that I got the answer of what I saw in the backyard in the Bible. I don't know. But I just wanted to tell my story. Jesus didn't take me by the hand and take me to heaven, nothing like that. No, but he showed up in my house, and I know without a doubt, like I said, I say without a doubt, but 99.9s, it was the Lord. What I saw in my backyard, that was the Lord. That's something I've never seen before. I've never saw, and of course I think I'm crazy. I've never saw a spirit. I don't dabble in stuff like that whatsoever. I've never played around with the dead and spirit. No. I lived in my house for 12 going on 13 years. I've never saw anything. I've never felt anything out of place. There's never a creak or a crack, and I'm like, what is that? Freaked me out. I've never felt that. My home has always been, that's the reason why I bought it, because it felt like home. And I've lived here by myself. I've lived here probably the last 3 years, I guess. Never felt anything out the ordinary. Never saw anything out the ordinary. But, well, I saw something now. And just, I don't know. Like I said, it's in the Bible. Share your story. So, I did. Woke up middle of the night and cried about it. And I just keep going to, I feel like, what? God was there with me. If he didn't speak to me, even though I wish to God he would have. I feel like if he didn't, it's for a reason. Okay? So maybe I just need to keep on seeking. I don't know. And maybe he'll give my answers. I don't know. But I just thought I'd share my story. So with that being said, good night, guys. Hopefully I helped somebody. I don't know if somebody out there has maybe seen something or anything, and just maybe they're looking for, confirmation, feel like they're not crazy. I don't know. I know I'm not, because I know what I saw it with my own eyes, and nobody will ever tell me any different. So I just want to make sure, y'all, like I said, I don't care who you are, what you do. None of that. God is with you. He cares about you on a daily. So don't ever feel so low to where you don't think that, that the Creator worries about you, because I promise you He does. He shows up at my house. He worries about every single one of us, I tell you. Alrighty. Well, good night. Bye, guys.